Powered by GoGoat Sports and in partnership with TSN, this is Season 3. It is Episode 20 of the Ray Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. We've got Martin Brodeur from the New Jersey Devils. He's involved on the business side, on the hockey side, as you'd expect with the Devils. He's going to drop by the podcast a little bit later. Meanwhile, congratulations, Ray, to Connor Boyd from Wheatland County, Alberta. He is the winner of the Ray and Dregs Instagram giveaway and that fancy, rare autograph, Ray Ferraro, Hartford Whalers sweater.
Dregs,
So,
I'm not kidding.
yeah.
Congratulations. Awesome.
Yeah.
I saw half a dozen people wandering around with Whaler jerseys in Vegas. Like a hoodie with the Whaler logo.
But does that surprise you? I mean, it's an iconic
No, but I'm like, every
logo.
time I
Yeah.
saw it, I smiled. And I'm like, that's so cool. And I'm like, and that jersey or that logo is so awesome.
It is awesome. You know, I don't know if you watch Insider Trading twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays on TSN.
Yeah, well, it's really unavoidable. You're everywhere.
I know. Well, the reason I pay attention, aside from the information Pierre LeBrun is sending our way, is because he's got the big Hartford Whalers logo as part of his office, his home office, the backdrop.
Yeah, I
Catches
love
my
that.
eye
You know
every
what I
time.
got to think LeBrun has? You know those giant foam cowboy hats?
And just to
Guaranteed
fit
he-
that head?
He's got one of those around somewhere. I can guarantee it.
Okay. Now, I wouldn't say you're a clothes horse, but you wear nice clothes. You like to look like you didn't roll out of bed and just
Well, I
grab
can
every
try.
wrinkled
Some days,
item. And
not so much. Yeah.
nah, I mean, you're put together, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I always admire is, and Dave Poulin is the same, so it might be just your makeup and how meticulous you were as players, but your tie is always tied right and it fits
Oh,
properly.
I know where
and
you're
it's
going
crisp.
here. Oh, yeah.
Drives.
Yeah.
I stopped complaining about it with LeBrun because, honest to God, it looks like he's, you know, it's been hanging out an open window of a car at 100 miles an hour because it's like so askew.
I think we
Drives
need.
me
I think we
crazy.
need to. I think we need to extend an invitation to LeBrun. If we can, and he's got to do it in front of the Whaler logo
For sure.
to defend himself,
Okay.
because that tie is never knotted up. It's
And they
never.
tell him every time, you got to fix your tie up here. There's some mumbling in French, and he kind of tightens it a little bit. Anyway, congratulations, Connor Boyd. We're off topic. We get talking about the Hartford Whalers. And that's what
attaboy,
reminded
Connor.
me of the next. And yeah, make sure you're following us on your socials so you don't miss your chance to get in on our next giveaway. You can find us, as always, at Ray and Dregs, and on Instagram, Twitter. That's the handle. So check it out, and check out our new and improved website as well. All right, we've got a lot to talk with Martin Brodeur about. We've got headlines. I thought we'd tour through each division, Ray, and maybe look at the wants, right? Because we're post All-Star now, and teams are really going to drill down on trade speculation, on trying to make their club better between now and March 21st. However, before we get there, what was your experience like in Vegas? Part of the broadcast of what I thought as a viewer was a successful weekend. Anytime I get to see the kids shine like Trevor Zegras did, like Jack Hughes did, like Kaprizov did, that's good enough for me. That's a win. I don't care that they score 1,000 goals in the 3-on-3. I was pissed off when who called the offside challenge review? Was it Brenda Moore or I can't remember.
Yeah. I did laugh though.
I mean, of course it was prompted. Like, I'm sure they had a discussion. If there's one that's even close, we got to call it just to annoy some people. I was one of the people that were annoyed. I'm like, come on.
Okay, so this is what I came out of the All-Star Weekend with.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, like I feel like I have, like, there's some ideas to improve it, but they're ideas out of positivity. Like, Trevor Zegras wasn't in the game, but he was at the skills competition.
Yeah.
So why not? This is how, I don't think you should have a representative from every team. I think the best players should go. Yeah. But I do think you should invite players to participate in individual skills. Why do these all-stars have to be the whole show? Here's an example. We know the league has player tracking, right? Mm-hmm. They're the stats and the analytics. How about after 35 games, you take from the player tracking and the analytics, you take the 6 fastest skaters that have been clocked in an NHL game, and they are in the fastest skater. Why not? Bring them in. Yeah. Bring them and their families in for a couple of days. They'll have a great time. They'll do their event and they'll go and it'll be great. This way you include more players. It's a showcase. The whole thing is a showcase. Do the same thing with the hardest shot. Who are the 6 guys that have been clocked with the hardest shot?
Yeah, bring them in.
Bring them in. Why not? Zegras should go every year. Yeah. I don't care if he never scores another goal again. That kid is phenomenal. And his personality it's going to draw people in. And there's going to be more kids like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I loved. I got to tell you this. As you know, Dregs, I run into a travel faux pas once in a while.
On occasion, yes.
So I get into my room. We're staying at the Aria Hotel, really nice hotel, kind of right across from the rink. Mm-hmm. So I get in there and it's dark, really dark. It's mid-afternoon. And so I go over to the corner where I'm at kind of a corner of the hotel. And so the curtains are drawn. So I start pulling the curtain to open it. I know
where this is going. They're electric.
Yes. And so I start pulling it and all of a sudden the thing just opens. Right? That's oh, that's kind of neat. So I go, I take my nap or do my thing. And then I'm an hour later, I need a nap. So I go to close it and they won't move. So now I've got to move a chair over to cover most of the window. I'm like, this is not right. There's got to be buttons
remote control or something, right?
Can't find it. So I go downstairs to dinner and I say to John Butchergross, I go, hey, Butch, do you have are your curtains automatic? And he's like, yeah. I go, well, how do you open them, close them? He's like, the 3 buttons beside the bed. And I'm like, where are they? And he goes, they're on next to the 3 buttons that you turn the lights on and off with. I didn't even see them. I had furniture propped up to pull the curtains closed. And then I went over there and I felt like I was a little kid. Curtains open, curtains open, or, curtains open, curtains closed. I need a valet to get me. I just can't. I don't know.
Years ago, I was staying at the Wynn and similar experience. I figured that out eventually, but I think I had a remote. I don't think that there were buttons. What I didn't know, though, was that when you set your alarm or you get a wake-up call, right, that the curtains would just blast open in conjunction with the wake-up call.
Just helping you out, eh?
Yeah, I set my wake-up call for 7:30 a.m., whatever it was, which was fine. I mean, you expect the call, not a big deal, can be startling, but what was unnerving was all of a sudden, poof, and there's just this blast of sunlight.
So good.
Anyway, we need help.
Do you have that at the Drager home or no?
No, we don't have that.
We have automatic curtains too. When you get up there,
you do?
Pull them open. Yeah, when you pull them open.
Oh, yeah, open. Of course. Heated floor, which I debated and fought back, but I lost that one. That's as high tech as we get here. Is the heated floors in the bathroom. That's it.
So you and Tiny lie on the floor and just because it's warm.
Tiny does. Yeah. In fact, she's in here too this morning. She's checking us out.
I just heard Ollie. Ollie's awake.
Perfect.
Yeah. You can imagine how he made his presence felt.
All right, headlines, Ray, presented by our friends at Boston Pizza. If you're looking to add a little bit of spice to your game day lineup, try Boston Pizza's new hearty jalapeno popper. It's a dip that's loaded with cheese, jalapenos, and everything is better with bacon in it, right? So throw on a signature side of the cactus cut potatoes, and you are good to go. Stop by your local Boston Pizza or give them a call, and you can also order online. Why don't we start with the Olympics and headlines this week? And Canadian women beat the American women 4-2 on Monday night. We're recording the podcast Tuesday morning. Rosie DiMano, a columnist with the Toronto Star, caused quite a stir on the weekend based on her account, which I think most would refer to as low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, it's the age-old argument that you've got the Canadian women, the American women, inevitably they're going to knock everybody else around. They're going to meet in the gold medal final. And yeah, sometimes Canada wins, sometimes the U.S. wins. It's just two powerhouse teams and everyone else. But Rosie suggests in this column in the Toronto Star on the weekend that, you know what, just punt women's hockey from the Olympics, because this is what it boils down to. And
right.
it detracts from the overall sport when you've got two powerhouse teams like Canada and the US. And man, I'm not going to lie, I read it and I went, wow, this is nonsense. Instantly. I'm like, big part of your life has been around women's hockey with Cammie, of course, the Hall of Famer. Some of my greatest memories of covering the Olympics are of covering women's hockey. The emotional tone of it and everything. So I know you responded on social media like literally thousands of others did. And I don't think it's an understatement to call it outrage. There was outrage from the hockey community, not the women's hockey community alone, the hockey community. So more or less what you make of the column and the reaction from hockey fans.
Well, two things really is, as a columnist, your job's to get people to read, and it is low-hanging fruit, and she grabbed it, and whoever the editor was put a big, bold headline on it, and they got reads, they got views.
Yeah.
So part of the columnist's job, I think, is to not care. It's to like, this is my opinion, and I don't really care what anybody else thinks about it.
Exactly.
And so you're not going to put out a column that is not going to get read. You're looking for something that's going to get read. That's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is it's so misguided. It's such an old thought. If you're to cancel women's hockey, well, you should get rid of table tennis. China wins all the time.
Yeah.
Every Olympics, I think it's 24 out of 26 that they've won. So get rid of it.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And so the only way the game can grow, the only way the sport of women's hockey can grow around the world is that if women have something to look to, or I'm sorry, girls have something to look to and say, I can aspire to that. Because if there is no top level, there is no bottom level. Right. There is nobody getting interested in it. Like the fact that Cammie's in the Hall of Fame and the girls of her era are in the Hall of Fame is beyond remarkable. And the reason is, when Cammie grew up, she wanted to play for the Chicago Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. She had no women idols to follow. There were none, or she didn't know of them then. She grew to learn about them. Right. So I think it's critical that the sport continues to be played as it is at the highest level. And the hope is the international federations, the Swedes, the Finns, the Russians, the Czechs, put some resource in to grow that part of the game. Mm-hmm. The Canadians and the Americans, if you watched the game last night, it was awesome. It was awesome. Hockey. But you know what else was terrific? The China and Japan game.
Like the emotion in that game was awesome.
Yes. And so it's hard in a tweet, but that's part, I've done the World Juniors and the World Men's Hockey Championships for well over a decade.
Yeah.
And when two of the lower tier nations, if you will, like not Canada and the US and Russia play, the games are awesome. Mm-hmm. And those countries aspire to be there, to be in that top group. And once in a while they are. And there's numbers and depths and there's all kinds of arguments to be had. The simple fact is it's a ridiculous argument to say that women's hockey should be excluded. It needs to be there. The Olympics need women's hockey. And the sport, in 20 years, the sport won't look like this.
No.
It will not look like this.
No. And look, your point is well made. And if Rosie or anyone else who has issue with the outcome and the fact that these games are normally so lopsided when Canada or the US play a fledgling country, well, then take issue with the federations that maybe, to your point, don't pour the resources that are required, on a monthly basis, not every 4 years. Oh, by the way, here come the Olympics. I guess we better beef up.
But see, that's what does happen.
Yeah.
That's what does happen.
Yeah.
And so year over year commitment, well, the money has to grow somewhere. Those countries have to feel that their women's programs are as important as the men's programs.
Yeah. All right. I thought just coming at All-Star, which we talked about right off the top of the podcast, we would look again at the NHL standings, and you can pick the teams if you want. I just I'm looking at the top teams in each division, and normally what happens, you come out of the All-Star like we have, and the trade speculation in media circles elevates, right? Because even though March 21st feels like it's a long way away, it's going to come pretty quick because of the condensed schedule and the fact some teams are playing every other night. So let's have a bit of fun. I'm not going to expect you to name names in terms of, well, if player X is available, he'd be a perfect fit here. I mean, if you want to do that, that's up to you. But we'll start in the East. We'll start in the Metropolitan. I've identified Carolina, New York, Pittsburgh. We could throw Wash into the mix if you want. Carolina, when you watch this team play, we watched them play last night. They lost in overtime to the Toronto Maple Leafs Monday night.
Fun game.
Yeah, fun game. Mitch Marner was buzzing in that one. Is there something about Carolina you don't like or something you feel that team needs?
I think they could use one more, well, like a lot of teams, they could use one more defenseman.
Okay.
I wonder a little bit, you've got an 19-year-old kid in Seth Jarvis playing in a pretty prominent spot. Yeah. I wonder as it gets deeper, would you need a veteran maybe there? Maybe. But man, Carolina's good. So maybe a defenseman. Okay. But I think we forget that Carolina is really aggressive.
They are.
Like they're at the cap. Like, yeah. I think a lot of us have this view that they've got like this piddly little payroll. They're not.
No.
And they're good.
They play aggressive too, right? Yeah. The same way, line after line after line. The structure is very similar.
Yeah. I would say one more D. The Rangers, they've been looking for, as you know, more than anyone, they've been looking for a top 6 forward, all season long. They thought maybe they would have something with Samuel Blais, who was starting to play really well for them. And then he blew out his ACL on kind of a cheap play. And so they've been kind of one forward short. I expect them to make a move. We go, Pitt, man, when they get rolling, they're a machine, man.
They are.
It's just like they just churn and they're big and maybe another defenseman, but I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I think the Penguins you see are the Penguins you get. They would like to get Evgeny Malkin rolling.
Right.
And, he's played a few games and now he's out with COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to miss a few, however ever long that's going to be. But, like they got to get him churning. That's their trade deadline. Washington, it's a goalie.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Washington is in that level anyway.
Wash poked around on Evander Kane. I wouldn't say that they made any, gestures beyond poking around. I don't think that there was an offer that was tabled. But I'm okay with that too, right? I mean, it's no different than Edmonton landing Evander Kane. If you feel like he's going to help you, the gamble is short term. So it doesn't surprise me that Washington would sniff around there.
No, of course not. I mean, it's easy to look at Ovi and think, oh yeah, this high flying team. But yeah, sure, they could probably use a little more offense.
Absolutely.
The one thing you have to remember is these teams are looking at their rosters and going, we'd like to improve this spot and that spot. You've only got so many assets to trade.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's where you're at.
Atlantic Division. So again, I'll just rhyme them off. You've got your top teams in Florida, Tampa Bay, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to include Boston in there because I do feel like Don Sweeney is likely going to do something. We know that you've got the Jake DeBrusk situation that continues to linger, and I don't think he's loving it. I mean, clearly he wants a change of scenery, so maybe that'll manifest moving forward. But go to the top of the division and then work your way down through those.
Florida, one defenseman for sure.
Okay.
2 if they can find another one. They've got some assets. They have a fantastic team. I said at the All-Star game, doing the game for ESPN, I said, if you're bored, tune on a Panthers game. You won't be in 3 minutes. Like they're explosive, high powered. They need another defenseman.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think they will get one. You know who's 1D that's going to get is going to have all kinds of interest in, and it might be Kent Hughes' first trade. Is
there
Jeff
you go.
Petrie.
Yeah.
Jeff Petrie is. I know he's had a crap year. I don't know if I get bleeped out. We used to call it a shit bomb year. That's what he's having. It is terrible. Jeff Petrie's a good player. Mm-hmm. And if somebody will acquire him and be really happy with him.
Yeah.
Tampa, I don't know. Can they get everybody healthy at the same time? I think that's their trade deadline.
Okay.
Like I don't see a lot there that they'd be able to acquire. I mean, what would they be trading? Their 2030 first round pick? I mean, like they are in now and now and now. And so I think I think they got what they got, and they're good. Okay. The Leafs, they can tell me how happy they are with the development of Justin Hall's season and yada, 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 yada. They need another defenseman.
Yeah.
They really do. Like that game last night was 4-3. It could have been 8-7.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, I mean, both goalies were terrific.
Yeah.
And so there's the need for Carolina and there's the need for Toronto.
So are you looking, and again, I'm not trying to radio you as we call it, but you just mentioned Jeff Petrie. They've got Benny Sherrod, who's an expiring contract in Montreal. For me, when I look at the Leafs, and it could apply to Carolina, it could apply to Florida, all these teams looking for defense. Yep. Aren't those the guys that you want? Right now, Petrie's got a bit of term left on his deal, but if you're Toronto, you're trying to bring in an experienced defenseman because it's not that you don't believe in Rasmus Sandin or Timothy Liljegren. It's just, man, you're getting into the playoffs. You got to get through the first round. So you need some experience. That's what you're looking for.
Those guys are at the top of the chain this year.
Yeah.
And it feels like the best teams all need that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sitting there and you're Kent Hughes, what a enormous test on your first trade deadline.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting there and, the ball's rolling downhill at you and you've got to kind of have your deflector shield out and go, not that one. Not that offer, not quite yet, and then pull the trigger right when you think you're near the best one.
Right. Okay, quick thought on Boston.
Well, here's the problem when you ask for a trade. It never happens the way you want it to.
Never. No.
So Jake DeBrusk and his agent asked for a trade. You want that thing to happen in 10 days, and good luck. Here we are 2 months later, and the thing floats around like bad air. I do think they will make that deal. I think there will be the market now, like the pressure point squeezes in.
Yeah.
I know the Bruins want to take a last kick at the can here with Patrice Bergeron in the last year of an 8-year deal. David Krejci's gone and Chara and all that Krug, they're all gone. I don't think they're good enough.
Okay.
And I think they're good, but I don't think they're at that level. I just don't think they quite have enough. And you hang on and you try and you try and you try, and eventually you have to take a bit of a swallow and say, hey, maybe not. But I think they'll trade DeBrusk. I think they'll change their roster a little bit.
All right, Ray, let's kick over to the Western Conference. Man, there's so much talent atop the Central Division, especially when you look at Colorado. Lots of speculation. I mean, is their goaltending going to be good enough? Might they add Claude Giroux? I mean, there's some wild and crazy stuff that's floating out there, which is the essence of our headlines and our speculative chat here today on the podcast. So Colorado, Nashville, I guess let's throw Minnesota and St. Louis into the mix in the Central as well. The needs of those teams, you think?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on Colorado. I think there's a lot of hockey left in Claude Giroux.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty expensive buy. And so if you're Colorado, you're not doing both. You're not getting a goalie and Claude Giroux.
Right.
So they have to try and determine what's more important. If they decide it's a goalie, almost certainly Darcy Kemper's got to be on the move the other way. I mean, they need the cap space. Right. They just signed him. Right? So that would I mean, that would mean that they made an evaluation during the year that they, it's not enough. And he's had a decent year. I've known Darcy for a long time. And when he runs hot, man, he runs hot. Can he get hot at the right time? They've got a hell of a team there. And so, it's now time to take a big swing.
Right.
And so whether that's in goal or Claude Giroux or somebody like that, then, maybe it becomes somebody like, well, I'm not going to start speculating. I don't like that. But maybe it's a lower tier forward as well that gives them a little more depth, a little more punch up front. They don't have to touch their D, I don't think. Yeah. Nashville, I don't think Nashville's going to do anything. I think they're such a surprise where they are. I would find it hard to believe that they step outside and try to acquire really anything. But
that's fine though, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, know where you're at. Yeah.
Know where you're at. Accept the surprise and go in. Maybe we can poke the bear a little bit if we get in. Yeah. Minnesota, I think maybe another centerman. would be nice to have just a little more depth up the middle of the ice. Maybe a D. They've used a lot of people, and yet Dean Evison seems to get them to play and play at a really quite remarkable pace. St. Louis is a tough one for me. I've seen them look really good and really bad this year. And so it doesn't seem like the time to blow out assets to try and acquire for a push. Yet maybe if Doug Armstrong thinks they can get a bit of a difference maker, maybe you trade a pick that you don't want to trade really. Okay. I find them a little inconsistent for me to really think this is the year to go in.
Yeah, and look, Army is like Brad Treliving and many other general managers where they're almost in every conversation. Doesn't mean they execute all the time, but he's poked around on Jacob Chikrin with Arizona. He's looked at Jake DeBrusk, we talked about it earlier, for the Boston Bruins. So if there's a deal that makes him better, obviously he's going to try there. Pacific Division: Vegas, LA, Anaheim, Calgary. I guess we throw the Oilers into the mix just because it's an interesting division.
Well, I'll start with Vegas. They're going to make a trade for sure. They have to. They got this Eichel fella that's hanging around, and they got to get him in the lineup. Yeah. So they got to. I think I saw the number $4.3 million. They've got to clear in cap space to get him there. So start circling guys, $4.5 million and above, right? There's not many, but I mean, they've got to make it. They have to make a deal. Their deal is subtraction to add Eichel. Right. That's the deal coming in Vegas. LA's really interesting because I think they've surprised a little bit too, but Rob Blake and company have felt like they're supposed to be a playoff team this year, like supposed to be right there. And they went this past offseason and they added, they didn't subtract. So I would look for the Kings to be more aggressive than you might initially think. A defenseman, I think, would be helpful. They lost, they've lost a couple of defensemen this year and still kind of managed their way through. Anaheim, I don't think they're going to do, I wouldn't do much if I was them. They've got all these young kids that are just starting to percolate right to the top. And I wouldn't want to subtract away from my prospect pool because that's the time frame that you compete. And they got a brand new general manager in Pat Verbeek. It would be really, really hard to go in there and, take a couple of swings. You got to evaluate. I know he's got Jeff Solomon there and Madden is there and they've been there for a while, but it's pretty hard to get a handle on everything going on already. Yeah. Calgary. Well, you mentioned Brad Treliving. He's always poking around at something. Yeah. The Flames have been, if the Flames could get something out of Sean Monahan, I don't think they would have to really look, but maybe that's the place you have to look. They got a lot of salary tied up in a guy that is not producing a whole lot for them.
No, it feels like maybe they waited a bit long with him on that trade front, Yeah.
Well, you're not going to, there's not like teams are poking around saying, hey, we'll give you 2 or 3 assets for Sean Monahan. He's a devalued asset right now. He's really struggled. Pace is hard for him right now. For Edmonton, I don't know. I think they've made the moves they can make. Unless you're, you can say, oh, you got to go get another goalie. They probably got to hope that Mike Smith can stay upright. Yeah. Right. He's not played much at all for them.
All right. Well, this has been a good exercise, and I think we'll do it as we limp closer to March 21st, because look, you just mentioned it with the goaltending in Edmonton, the injury issues around Mike Smith all season long. All it takes is one key player from that group of teams that we just talked about in the East and West to get injured, and all of a sudden your wants change in a hurry. Right. So we'll continue to talk about the wants, the needs, and the available players as the trade bait list grows between now and March 21st. Our interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to you by our good pals at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Why not try a refreshing CC ginger ale with lime next time you're just having a drink or maybe watching a game? All right, Martin Brodeur of the New Jersey Devils now joins us on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Marty, you are Executive Vice President on the business side of the New Jersey Devils. So we're going to talk a lot about your playing career, and with the Olympics going on, obviously we'll dive into that. But take us through a typical day now in your professional life with the Devils. What does it look like?
Actually, when I joined the Devils 3.5 years ago, this is what I did. I was vice president of business development. When the changes occur with Tom Fitzgerald becoming general manager, I kind of switch a little more on the hockey side. So I do
nice.
A little bit of the business, a little bit of the hockey. I advise Tom and his group on the hockey operation with Josh and David, both managing partners of the organization, to try to navigate and try to get this team back on track where you're supposed to be. But still involve a lot on the business side as far as like charitable events that we do, some of the marketing part of it. Obviously, I've been in New Jersey for so long. Mm-hmm. And I was helped in the design of the New Jersey, the third jersey that we had, the famous jersey, and hat, whatever you call it.
Now, what is there? Do you have a preference to be more on the hockey side, or do you like the business side, or is it kind of cool to do both?
It's kind of cool to do both. I think you, as a hockey player, you don't realize how much there is outside of just the game of hockey for an organization. And so to kind of learn the ropes on that side, and obviously the Harris Blitzer Sport Entertainment own also the 76ers in the NBA. So you kind of touch on different little things. We own, the Prudential Center where there's a lot of concerts. So there's a lot of things that I was able to put my hand in that was kind of pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I'm a hockey player. And so I love the excitement, the adrenaline of a hockey game still, and being part of it and being closer now than I was a few years back. It's been a lot of fun.
So you mentioned the Prudential Center and, of course, your Hall of Fame goalie. Do you ever walk by your statue there and take a look at it and go, damn, that's kind of cool. There's a statue right here.
It's not on my way to where I park, but once in a while I get by and I still am amazed when I look at it.
It's really, really remarkable. So I want to ask you, I had your guys just before the break. You had a clunker against Toronto. Now you signed Dougie Hamilton, you make some changes. You've got these young, exciting guys. Is it hard to be patient, waiting for everybody to grow up, basically, to get experience?
Yeah, a little bit, but you know what? I think it's been a few years now. Jack Hughes been 3 years in the league, and Nico Hischier has been, probably 5 years now. So, it's time. I think it's one thing to try to grow up, but eventually you need to grow up. It's like your kids a little bit. I think we've done a lot of good moves over the summer. I think we got snake bit a little bit with the goaltending, when having Bernier getting hurt right away. Mackenzie Blackwood never able to get over his ankle injury. Now we have to rely on two kids that one was playing in the USHL and was playing in Germany last year.
Right.
And then we signed somebody that was in the minors in John Gillies to try to help out. We wish we could have find something, but around the league there's a lot of teams who are in our situation, so it was hard to go out and find goalies to be able to weather the storm. And now with the injury of Dougie Hamilton, it's hard. It's hard, patient, but I think we have a plan. We were not gonna sell out at the deadline. We believe in our players. We were happy about some of the strides some of the young guys that's taken so far. Obviously, it doesn't look on the score sheet. It's too bad. I know our fans, it's kind of tough on everybody to kind of follow what we're going. But we really believe in Jack. Jack's a superstar. I mean, you saw it at the All-Star game, the way he conducts himself and the way he plays the game. He'll be just fine. We just got to find a way to surround him and surround the other players that we believe that they're a future of an organization. And the last part of the season, we just want to be competitive. Get these guys Ray friend of mine to have success. We're having a lot of success in our minor league team in Utica. We're number one in the Eastern Conference there. And that's one thing that we always wanted to do, is start developing our young players and not pushing to the NHL. And, you're not going to see a lot of young guys coming up now because we're out of the playoff spot or whatever. They're going to go there and do their things and play meaningful games in Utica and try to, do well and play some playoff games for us down there.
Now, Marty, when when we played against each other, your team, you guys were as young as anybody. Like those first couple Devils teams. When did you know that, wow, we're pretty good? Oh, we're really good, because it seemed to come all of a sudden, and then you guys were dominant for a decade.
Yeah, I think when we start believing in ourselves and like have the core players play together for a long time, I think that's what really makes a hockey team. It's hard when you start injecting people in and out of your roster a lot. And so when we were able to stay together as long as possible, we always had as a nucleus of players, from the start with Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, Danico, myself. You move up in the 2000, it was John Madden, Jay Pandolfo, Scott Gomez. And we just kept on adding around the core group of players to try to make it. And there was a huge, how can I say that? Like when you walk into the Devils, it was all about the Devils. There was nothing of the ego of another player didn't matter. Like we brought in Ilya Kovalchuk, and it was, you're a Devil now. If you're not Kovalchuk anymore, you don't do whatever you want. And then we had enough leadership in our locker room to ask these guys to do that. And obviously, Lou was a little scared to deal with on top of that.
Do you have that in your office when somebody walks in? Do you have the Lou look or the, I don't know what it's like. Imagine it was terrifying.
No, as an advisor, I'm the nice guy, so I don't have to give that.
Hey, Marty, when you played, like, you played 65, 70 games a year. Now, would you have been able to do that with a team that played a little differently? Or were you just getting in the net and not giving it up?
That was my attitude. I was scared of somebody taking my job. So I'm like, if I was healthy, I was playing. I just wanted to be successful, and I'm like, I don't really care about the guy that's sitting there. Like, this is what I wanted to do all my life. But I think it was a perfect storm. I think I came in, I wanted to play, I was durable. I played on good teams. We played a great system. So like I said, it was a perfect storm. And it's like people like, you're underpaid at times. And, I had something great going in New Jersey. Not the few more bucks would have changed that. I knew like the success would have come in New Jersey for me, and it did. And I was just patient with my relationship with everybody there. And, I became a Devil, and I'm excited that I could say still I'm in the organization,
So what's the most exciting part of transitioning from play to manage, or is there one? And you can't still miss playing, do you?
No, not at all. They shoot too high now. You know what? I think the adrenaline, like to stay around the team and see young players grow, I think it's a lot of fun. I was a assistant general manager for the Blues for 3.5 years. And for me to watch them winning the Stanley Cup, seeing some of the young players, like you look at Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso, they're two guys that were in the minors, and now both of them are excelling in the NHL. So it's really rewarding then when you're able to draft a kid and seeing up and hire people or get people to get these kids to a different level, and you see them succeed. You get to know their parents, all that stuff. That's the beauty of giving back to the game. And that's an exciting thing for anybody that's part of a hockey team,
Are you pretty involved, Marty, with the goalies, with the New Jersey Devils, like developmentally, organizationally, maybe even game in and game out? I mean, I would assume that the coaching staff will lean on you from time to time.
No, they do. It's kind of fun after games or after practices, and then we have a lot of good conversation. A year and a half ago, we created this goalie department that I kind of helped lead. Hired Scott Clemenson, that was already in the organization, kind of put him in a different spot. We got Anders Nielsen as a scout, a European scout. We hired 2 different goalie coaches because, like I said, when Tom came in, we kind of made a bit of a cleanup on the coaching staff, and we hired a lot of new people. And, every week we got the calls on goalies and try to find, they're hard, like signing a goalie through free agency, it's kind of you kind of overpay and overextend yourself sometimes. And so I think finding goalies that nobody can find is where it's going to be at. And you see a lot of the organization, we're going through that recipe, like try to find this college free agent or, European goalie that hasn't seen, or a goalie that's kind of stuck between two goalies and can't make it via trades or whatever. So, like I said, we've been working hard at it, but we got, like I said, this year I think we played with 6 or 7 goalies. That was a little rough.
No kidding. Look, we teased that we would talk about the Olympics, and we can't have a 4-time Olympian, 2-time gold medal winner on the podcast and not talk about it. COVID forced the National Hockey League to pull out of the Winter Olympics in China. So, I mean, it's still best on best when you look at each team and how each federation put their teams together. But talk about the impact of the Olympics on your career. I mean, you're a multi-Vezina winner, so the accolades are there, the records are there from an NHL perspective. But man, your career maybe wouldn't have been as complete without the Olympic experience.
Oh, there's no doubt. I think the Olympics is such a great, a great tournament. You go in there and you get to meet a lot of people, especially you go into the village and just the camaraderie that you have with other athletes is super fun. But, for me, like, it changed my career around. Like, I had some pretty decent career going up to the Olympics in 2002. But again, I was always tagged as the goalie for the New Jersey Devils that they're playing in front of a trap and all that stuff. And when I won my gold medal, it's funny, I won the Vezina 2003, 2004, 2007. It's kind of, I got recognition from being able to get out of my New Jersey bubble and winning on the world stage. And so it's something that I'll never forget, that when Gretzky gave me a chance to be the number 1 goalie, after Cujo, lost the game against Sweden, but played in 4 Olympics. I would never trade all that for anything in the world. My father played in the Olympics in 1956. So for me and him to kind of live through these experiences, and he didn't miss one of them. He was there with me at all of them. So it was a lot of fun.
What's the pressure like, Marty, in the Olympics for a goalie compared to maybe a Stanley Cup run? Like, it seems to me like it would just be enormous.
Ray, like, it's a little different because the year that social media was not a huge deal, in 2002 and 2010, it wasn't as big as it is now. I know in 2002, it was right after 9/11. So we were really in a bubble of our own, and I think the Team Canada treats us so well that, with all the outside noise, we didn't really hear much about. And it was just about us as a team coming in and bonding and then making sure we're going to play for each other. And it's that adjustment for the NHL players is huge, because when you get the amateur guys or guys that are not used to be there, they'll take any role. Doesn't matter. They'll do whatever. But the commitment of 11 captains to say, all right, you're the one leading. I'm just going to sit back. You're centerman while I'll play wing. I'm a left D. I'm going to play right D. You're a backup goalie or your top goalie. Now it's a huge sacrifice because we all have egos. We all committed ourselves for 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks to a tournament like that. And so is really, gratifying as an athlete, and the cups are great. It's so different, because you live with your family. Your Stanley Cups, I mean, it's 2 months of hockey, but you know what? Sometimes it's 5 years that you've been together to be able to achieve that goal. And so it's so different, both of them. But the Olympics are great. I was fortunate enough to be part of the management group in 2018 when these guys went to, I think it was South Korea. And, they came back with a bronze medal. Team Canada did it. And so it was kind of cool. I got a call with Sean Burke and Scott Salmon at the time. And I told him, I go, I know it's disappointing we're not playing for a gold medal, but, my dad had a bronze medal in our house and they meant the world to him. I go, when you're going to look down to your career and you're going to be able to show your kids or your family that you won a bronze medal, you guys are going to be proud of it. So don't let, that loss for the gold medal affect you too much.
Marty, I got to tell you this one. You won't remember this, but we were playing in a world championship in Vienna and Cujo was playing goal. You were backing up that we were playing the Russians and it gets in the shootout and I'm standing down the end of the bench next to you. I don't even know I'm one of the shooters. And First, they score first. Our first 4 guys miss. Their 4 guys miss. So I'm the last guy. Tom Rennie goes, you're up. And you say to me as I'm going over the boards, hey, Rat Boy, I don't think that backhand deke move will work. Against Andrei Trefilov was the goalie because he used to just flop out. So I'm skating out there and I'm like, Jesus, Marty thinks this move won't work. I don't have another move. This is all I got. And I'm like, screw it. I'll just try it anyway. And it went in. You scared the heck out of me, man. I was terrified.
Sorry about that.
Those tournaments were so different because it was kind of like a 3-week vacation in a way. I mean, you got 7 games.
Yeah, until the family came. That's it.
That was
exactly.
It. Yeah, vacation's over.
All right, Marty. Well, we'll let you go at that. I mean, we could go on and on and on about such a wonderful career, but we know you're busy. You got traveling on your mind this week, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Good luck to you.
And we'd like to raise a glass of that good, crisp 43-year-old CC to Martin Brodeur for joining us today, presented by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey. He's an interesting and engaging guy, right? He's always been that way. Almost like the smiling assassin, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And he talked about his level of compete, and maybe not just because of the arrogance of wanting to be the best in the crease, period, which he was for a lot of time. I mean, you could, of course, build a case for Patrick Waugh and so many of the great goalies.
Dominic Hasek.
Right? Dominic Hasek, for sure. Yeah. But, he's always got a smile on his face. But he acknowledged in the interview, his will to compete was more about not wanting to lose his job than it was to be as good as he was and as good as he could be.
Isn't it interesting? Like one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. And he's like, I just didn't want to lose my job. And you're like,
come on.
I wonder at some point, did you not realize you were one of the best? But here's the thing. Marty is also ultra confident.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was, and I say this, Dregs, you've heard me use this before, and I mean it in the most admirable way possible. When he went in the net, there were very few guys that had his arrogance.
No kidding.
He went in there and you are not scoring. Patrick had it too. Waugh had it too.
Yeah.
They went in there and they were like, do what you want. You're not scoring. And the confidence just dripped out of these guys. And Marty, you look at Marty, he never looked like anything was a problem. First of all, the guy's huge.
He's a big man.
And you have to go back 20 years when he was playing.
Yeah.
There weren't guys 6'7" playing goal anymore.
Yeah.
Or then. And Marty, first of all, they made a rule so he couldn't wander around and field the puck all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, just think of this. There's 2 rules in the NHL that have been made because of people, individuals. One was Matt Duchene went 35 feet offside and scored a goal. And they changed the offside rule, and they've been fighting that thing uphill for, 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's because Duchene went so far offside and nobody caught it. Right? They changed the rule. Marty, they're like, we got to draw new lines on the ice because every time somebody shoots it in the zone, he just goes and gets it and clears it out. He was a better passing defenseman than lots of defensemen. He changed the game. And behind that Devils team, you'd fight like hell to get ice, you chip it into the zone because there was nowhere to go, and then Marty just go to the corner and shoot it out of the zone. You'd be like, well, what a waste of time that was.
He scored 3 goals, NHL goals, and I think one of them was in the playoffs, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, his puck handling was unbelievable.
All right, there he is, as good looking as ever, Chris Abbott from Coolbet.co, joining us on episode 19 of the Ray Dregs Podcast. We talked about All-Star Weekend in Vegas off the top of the pod, and you are living proof that that's one hell of a weekend, eh, Chris? I mean, there's a lot going on. We could tell from your social media feed that you didn't miss 1 second of it.
No, it was fantastic. I mean, first time in my life I had the chance to take it in. Skills competition is something I've watched since I was a kid. So to be able to watch that, kind of right there in real life was awesome. And then somehow or other found our way into this kind of sponsor reception that the NHL put off at Resorts World. And man, it was unbelievable. Sponsored by New Amsterdam. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but it was fantastic. We had a lot of fun, and it was pretty cool to get back and kind of live life the way we like to live it.
Well, twice Abs and I tried to get together. What about here? What about there? And
couldn't pull it off.
You get on it. Oh man, there's just no. You get on these divergent paths, and you're like, I can't get over there. I just can't. I can't make it from here to there. And my voice sounded like Abs's yesterday. I'm rebounded a little bit today.
Yeah, I got back to Toronto late last night, and my favorite place in Vegas. I mean, it's not fancy at all. In fact, the opposite. Yeah. It's the Times Square bar at New York Casino. And if you haven't made it, like, this is my endorsement. The same guys have been playing there forever. I know they kill it because everybody brings up requests written on cash. So it's gotta be amazing. And you'd never do it in any other regular setting, but you're like, here's 20 to play this. And then they're like, well, you really want to hear it, you got to pay more than the other people. So people are like, it's a free
what
market.
A gig, man. What a gig.
Awesome spot.
You've been to other establishments where you had to throw cash onto the stage. Maybe not. This is legit, right? You're okay with this.
I'm old now, Dregs. This is what this is my preferred method of partying with my cash on a stage. That's the old me. The old me.
All right, buddy. Is this? I was going to say arguably, but it's got to be the busiest week of the year for you, isn't it? Leading up to Super Bowl and everything that's going on, and the madness of the prop bets and where you can put your money down.
Yeah, in our industry, it's, last weekend was a good weekend to try and sneak in a bit of a rest, a bit of a vacation with the NFL off, the NHL off. And hey, I was at the Pro Bowl, I was at the All-Star game, so I got away with it. But yeah, this week is going to be absolutely crazy. Sunday will be our biggest day of the year in terms of new customers, in terms of bets taken, in terms of money handled. The only thing that rivals it is like the Soccer World Cup or the Euros, and those are all spread out, right? This is one, as far as a single day goes, I think the only event that's ever been bigger than the Super Bowl was Mayweather-McGregor. That was the only event that was ever bigger than the Super Bowl,
Yeah, I know just, because I like to play a little bit, is that there's always a little bit of a fear that you're missing out if you're not in on the action Super Bowl week. And so do you see, is there a momentum to the props bets as the week goes on that all of a sudden people go, oh, wait a minute, that's a little goofy. I want to bet on the coin flip. I want to bet on the length of the anthem. I want to bet on the, does the Cincinnati football team score more than the Tampa hockey team? Like whatever it is, like some crazy. Does that build momentum?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, there's a few things that happen there. Like something becomes trendy, right? Especially in the age of social media. A bet that people pick out and they'll think they have the inside track, whether it's the Gatorade color or the first song that's going to be the part of the halftime show. So that kind of picks up steam throughout the week. And the coin toss one, you can be down a few $100 before they even kick off, with the coin toss and the anthem and this is the way we like to propose it. You could be up, you could have extra money to play with before the game even starts. Right. So,
well, I do know there was a year I won the coin flip and changed a couple bets instantly.
Sure, why not?
We're just like, oh, I got this extra stuff. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly, for people like us who follow football all year, the game kind of becomes secondary to the whole spectacle, right? And we sometimes literally you lose track of the fact that the championship is being decided on this night because even for me, someone who loves football, the halftime show is all the artists that I listened to when I was kind of in university and in high school with Eminem and Snoop and Dr. Dre and all the it's an unbelievable halftime show. So that's going to be just as big of a highlight for me.
Do things change right up to the minute? I mean, as we were getting set, we were talking about, and Ray alluded to it, maybe the cross-sport prop bets and things like that. Can something literally happen while the game is being played on Sunday where Coolbet.co goes, oh, that's interesting, let's get in on that?
Well, the markets may not change, but we might see things happen that affect different parts of our sports book. So for example, say, I don't even know if the LA Kings are playing on Sunday, but let's say, we have will there be more Kings goals or Rams touchdowns? Something, for example.
Right.
And you might see, the Rams get out, hypothetically, they score 5 touchdowns in the first half. Well, then maybe the Kings game, you got people going over there going, well, I got to hedge this and bet the under on the Kings game. So then you have to be a little more nimble because, all those things come into play. I was trying to think of them we've got almost 400 bets available. So there's plenty to pick from.
Oh, I got one for you.
Okay.
The Sean McVay call a timeout in the first quarter.
oh, man, I love it. I'm going to say minus 500. And I'll give you even better odds if he's got to run all the way down the sideline to do it.
Yes, there is a sprint to that timeout. I love it.
All right, we got to establish that. All right, Kris, obviously we've got the Olympics to focus on. We'll dive into that a little bit more. I'm curious on your thoughts of the Canadian women coming off the win over the U.S., whether that'll change the line, but we can deal with that next week. So enjoy the rest that is required. Hydrate, for the love of God. Just hydrate for the next few days and get
you
yourself
too,
ready
Chris?
for the week.
I don't mind going here.
Yeah, everyone's picking on me. Ray was there just as long. So.
Honey in the tea, water in the bowl.
That's awesome. All right, Abs. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, time for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. Each week we ask you to fire your questions our way on Twitter or Instagram at Ray and Dregs if you're new, or on the website, rayandregs.com. We talked about the Canadian teams, a couple of the Canadian teams, the 2 Alberta teams in headlines, Ray. But Stephen Wood from Twitter is asking about the Winnipeg Jets. And Stephen wants to know, what do the Jets have to do to turn it around? Man, that's a big question. I'm not sure you can answer it very quickly.
Yeah, they seem to have lost their way a little bit, and maybe Paul Maurice is just an amazing coach. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's some of it. Maybe there is some fatigue to the roster. They've always been led by Scheifele and Wheeler by so far, and maybe that's not the case right now anymore, and maybe it can't be anymore. They're in a really precarious spot, I think, in Winnipeg. There's some really, really big decisions that have to be made there.
Mm-hmm. All right, from Braden on the Instagram, Ray, who do you think is going to win the Hart?
Oh, geez. I don't know. That's so hard.
Win the Hart?
Draisaitl,
Matthews.
No, the Edmonton guys can't unless they make a run.
Right. Yeah. Fair.
Matthews can be close. The guy scores a goal every game. He literally scores every game.
Yeah.
And if he wins the goal scoring title and the Leafs continue at their current pace, why wouldn't he be in the equation? I think Ovechkin's got to be in the equation.
Yeah.
I think he will be too. It's the Hart's hard because
it's too early too, right?
It's too early. There's too much that has to happen yet. Ask that question in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, we will. There's no question.
Oh, I'm sure
because as you get closer, we'll dig in on some of the major awards. All right. How about one more? This one's a fun one. Okay. From Ops Fourth Liner on Instagram, right? Thinking of going to BC to play some golf. Ray, do you have any courses that need to be on our must playlist in BC?
It's a big province. There's a lot of ground to cover. I would get up to the Okanagan. Tobiano is a really difficult, spectacular course. You can play almost anywhere around Kelowna, and you will. Predator Ridge in Vernon is
beautiful,
outstanding.
One stop too, right? You can pit in at Predator Ridge and play how many different courses? You could. Spend
you got the two that are 6 feet out your front door.
Yeah.
Plus, you can get to the the Kelowna Kamloops area really quickly. I think that's got to be your starting point.
Okay. You know, one of my favorites is little bit off the beaten track, just a little bit.
Okay.
The Salmon Arm Golf and Country Club. Have you played there?
No.
Oh, buddy. Lush. Beautiful.
But here's the thing. You could also get up to the Kootenays.
Yeah.
And play around the Kootenays. Like Christina Lake is an amazing place.
Right.
Problem is, the province is big. You've got to kind of centralize a little bit.
Yeah. So, and look, we could have this conversation for an hour because you've traveled extensively to play golf.
Yeah, mostly in my new Titleist golf shoes, by the way.
You just got them, didn't you?
Oh, are they nice? I was out at the range. I thought, even though I'm on mats, I should wear my new shoes.
Yeah, I played Banff Springs on Sunday in the simulator. Yeah, shot a crisp 82. 82. Really? 82.
Always a good lie, though, which is always nice about the simulator.
Perfect lie. And what really benefits me is the automatic putting. I mean, it's fantastic. Like I one putted from 30 feet twice, which would never happen in my life.
82 is not. So what was it? 86, 86, 7?
Yeah, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. That's where it would be.
By the way, did you see Bill Murray make that putt this weekend?
I looked at it 10 times. Like, how impressive is that?
Yeah.
You know,
and just his face too just cracks me up. Like he just is like, oh yeah, it's in the hole.
And Faldo and Nance are just like, look at he just made that. You know, nothing to see here. Everybody move along. He's fantastic. All right, buddy. It's been a whirlwind. Several days for you, and I bet this week is going to be more of the same, is it?
Yeah, I think we got a lot going on this week, so we're excited for a lot of it, and I'm excited for the Olympics to get going. But lots going on. Yeah. Good week though. Good week. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think we're going to start hearing more and more from the Canadian NHL clubs pushing back. Right? Enough. Yeah. Like, we're going to 50% capacity February 21st. Okay, no more of this. Like, there are bills to pay. There are things that have to get done financially. So I feel like it's going to be a bit of a newsy week. So we'll have lots to.
Well, that gets you in the forefront. You might want to make sure your hair is all trimmed up then for it. You're going to be on camera a lot. Yeah. It looks good today, Dregs.
Not bad. Lots of product in it today. My wounds are healing nicely. So
it's all good. Yeah,
there's only so much you can do with this mug, Ray.
Yeah, but I run into that every morning too. What are you going to do?
Not much. All right, buddy. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Reminder to check out Ray and Dregs social channels for Rapid Fire, presented by Kintec Footwear and Orthotics, keeping you active on your feet for life. A little later this week, we'll have another Rapid Fire coming your way. It's either James Duthie or Martin Brodeur. Either way, you're getting quality entertainment on the Ray and Dregs socials. Huge shout out to our partners who make the podcast possible, by our title sponsor, our good friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website, by Endy.ca. Remember, use code RD75 to save $75 on a mattress. By Kintec Footwear and Orthotics. Book a consultation at kintec.net. And by Boston Pizza. Pick it up or get it delivered to your door. Let Boston Pizza do the cooking tonight. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and look forward to another great guest and another great episode of Ray and Dregs next week.